So our second speaker this afternoon is Dr. Gabriela Garcia, who's a member of the Renal Division. Dr. Garcia spent a number of years at the Baylor College of Medicine before being recruited to the University of Colorado in 2009, where she's risen up through the ranks to the level of associate professor. Dr. Garcia's focus is on identifying mediators of inflammation and endogenous factors regulating the counter-anti-inflammatory processes in the kidney. She's published a number of nice studies in this area and has an R01 to support the work that she'll be telling us about today. Thanks for being here, Dr. Garcia.
Thank you very much. So there are several factors that contribute to the initiation and progression of kidney injury. A long time ago, more than 20 years ago, there is a proposal that the nephron loss is going to create a hemodynamic adaptation, and this hemodynamic adaptation is going to create podocyte injury, mesangial cells, and endothelial cells damage. This is because it's necessary to increase the glomerular capillary hypertension to maintain the glomerular filtration. So the damage of these cells is going to increase cytokines, chemokines with recruitment of inflammatory cells. These cells also are going to release inflammatory mediators to recruit more cells, and so we have a chronic inflammation, fibrosis, glomerulosclerosis, and less nephrons. Also, the hemodynamic adaptation creates proteinuria. This proteinuria can damage tubules and increase the extracellular matrix deposition, inflammation, fibrosis, and we have a vicious cycle. Although this proposal is still valid, there are also new factors that contribute to the induction and progression of the kidney injury. For example, if there is glomerular damage, also is going to affect any of these endothelial, mesangial, or podocytes. And so we can lose some podocytes, and the loss of podocytes are also associated with the progression of the kidney injury. Glomerular injury also reduces the number of the capillaries. That is very important in the progression of kidney injury. And at the end, also the glomerular damage can produce interstitial damage and tubular damage. If there is tubular damage, this is going to induce the release of pro-inflammatory molecules, pro-fibrotic molecules. It's going to produce epithelial to mesenchymal transition and fibrosis, and this is going to induce the progression of kidney injury. However, once there is kidney injury, the glomeruli acquire the capacity to protect itself by producing several protective mediators like anti-inflammatory cytokines, antithrombotic molecules, cytokine inhibitors, complement regulatory proteins. One molecule that has been identified that can help to resolve inflammation is adenosine. Adenosine is produced in response to metabolic stress and cellular damage, and it's going to regulate the tissue function by binding 4 receptors, A1, A2A, A2B, and A3. A2A adenosine receptors are responsible to the anti-inflammatory effects of adenosine. Actually, these receptors are known as a breaker of the inflammation because are very potent inhibitors of the inflammatory response. So we were interested in studying these receptors because inflammation contributes to the initiation and progression of the kidney injury. We have several evidence. For example, at the end stage, the kidney is characterized histologically by inflammation with infiltration of leukocytes and fibrosis. Markers of the inflammation are also increased in the plasma of patients with chronic kidney disease. And in experimental models, depletion of macrophages reduces glomerular injury and proteinuria. So to start this receptor, we choose the model of antiglomerular basement membrane glomerulonephritis in these WK1 rats. The reasons are several. One, this is a model very similar to the crescentic glomerular nephritis in humans. This model is also a progressive model that starts in the glomeruli with increasing the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, is going to reduce capillary glomerulus, but also later is going to affect tubules and interstitium. And this model is very well characterized. There is inflammation 4 hours after we inject the antibody. At day 6, there is already very severe kidney injury. At day 11, there is extracellular matrix deposition. And the rats develop end-stage renal disease 8 weeks later or earlier. And we also choose this model because the prognosis of the crescentic glomerular nephritis in humans is very poor. This is a retrospective study in which they analyze 123 patients. If these patients are very sick at the beginning of at the diagnosis of the disease, that means require dialysis, the prognosis is not good because from 63 patients of 69 require maintenance in dialysis of kidney transplant. Only 6 of these 69 patients, the function was recovered. If the disease is not so severe and they don't require dialysis at the time of the diagnosis, still the prognosis is not so good. 18 from 54 require replacement therapy with dialysis or transplant, and only 36 the kidney function was stable. The 5-year kidney survival is just 34%. That was increased to 50% if the diagnosis of the patient was after 2007. This is because they performed an earlier detection. They receive a very intensive immunotherapy. So the first thing we want to know the expression and localization of A2A adenosine receptor in glomerulonephritis. And we can see that normally in the glomeruli there is very little expression of this receptor that is increased during glomerulonephritis and is localized in the macrophages. So because we have this receptor already expressed, we use an agonist to activate the receptor. And we use this agonist in 2 stages of the disease. At early time between day 1 and day 5, because we have already inflammatory cells, or between day 6 and day 11, in which we have already severe kidney injury. If we use an agonist for the receptor, we are going to reduce the macrophage and CD8 cells infiltration, and the glomerular kidney is going to be very well perceived. The kidney injury was significantly reduced, and even we were not able to see crescent formation that is a characteristic of this model. If we use, in the contrast, if we use an antagonist, the kidney injury is going to be worse compared with the controls. Still, at day 6 and day 11, activation of this agonist can reduce macrophage infiltration and can protect from kidney injury. Interestingly, activation of this receptor reduces the expression of small masoactin, that is a marker for mesangial cells damage, but also preserve podocytes. There is alpha-actinin 4 that is a marker for podocytes. In contrast, the antagonist for the receptor increases small masoactin and reduces the expression of alpha-actinin 4. The same between day 6 and day 11 treatment reduce also a small masoactin expression and was able to reduce the small maso expression, but increase the expression of alpha-actinin 4. The protection of this agonist is mainly because was able to reduce several chemokines. This is the glomeruli, and so we have in here a lot of expression of several chemokines. If we use the agonist, practically it was a blunted expression of MDC that is mainly expressed in macrophages. Was reduced several chemokines like ME1 alpha, RANTES, and MCP1. And the same happened in the treatment between day 6 and day 11, blunted expression of MDC and reduced expression of other chemokines. So we were encouraged for those results, and we decided to investigate if we can arrest the progression of the kidney injury. So in this study, we started treatment at day 14 to day 19. We know that at day 11 there is already extracellular matrix deposition. Surprisingly, the agonist reduced 83% accumulation of macrophages and was able to protect from kidney injury with reduction in the glomerular hypercellularity, necrotizing glomerular, and crescent formation. So this is the day 20 when we sacrifice the rats using the agonist. This is the control, and this is the antagonist. So with the agonist, there is reduction in the deposition of collagen 4, reduction in the deposition of collagen 1, collagen 3, and increased expression of E-cadherin. Reduction of E-cadherin imply epithelium to mesenchymal transition, and also will reduce the expression of small muscle actin not only in the glomeruli but also in the interstitium. In contrast, if we inactivate the receptor, there is increase in the position of collagen 4, collagen 1, collagen 3, reduction in the expression of E-cadherin, and increase in the expression of smooth muscle actin. Interestingly, we compare day 20 of the glomerulonephritis with day 14 of glomerulonephritis. If we treated these rats with the agonist, the deposition of collagen 4 was less compared with day 14. The deposition of collagen 3 was also reduced, and also will reduce the expression of small muscle actin in the tubules. So this is just a quantification. This is treatment with the agonist, and this is the control. So they show the reduction in the deposition of collagen 1, collagen 4, 1, and 3, increased expression of E-cadherin, and reduced expression of small muscle actin. If we compare the 20 with the 14, there is reduction in collagen 4, collagen 3, and reduction of small muscle actin in the tuberous. This data suggests that we can arrest the progression of the kidney injury. To further investigate the protective effect of this receptor, we use the A2A adenosine receptor knockout mice. So initially, in this panel, we use the suboptimal or low doses of the antibody. In the wild type, practically the disease disappeared because we use very low doses and the mice start recovering. However, in the absence of the receptor, the disease still was present at day 14 and was very severe. So next, we use the optimal dose of the antibody. And we can see that the absence of the A2A adenosine receptor increase, we have a very severe damage in the glomerular and also in the tubules. So with this data, we can see that A2A adenosine receptor is important to protect from kidney injury. And within the activation of the macrophage, A2A adenosine receptor are responsible for this protection. However, we don't have any direct evidence. So we decided to use this CD11B diphtheria toxin receptor transgenic mice, in which the human diphtheria toxin receptor is under the control of CD11B promoter. And when we inject low doses of the diphtheria toxin, we are going to deplete macrophages. This model has been very well characterized. So when the disease was established in these mice, we depleted macrophages, and we reconstituted them with wild-type macrophages or macrophages deficient of this receptor. So first we investigated, we proved that we have very pure population of macrophages, more than 80% from bone marrow-derived macrophages. We stained them to see if they can migrate to the kidney. So these macrophages do not migrate to the normal kidney, but migrate to the nephritic kidney. And wild-type macrophages and macrophages deficient in the receptor migrate very similar to the nephritic kidney. Many macrophages also migrate to the spleen, but not to the lung, as previously reported. So we use these mice. So we have 4 groups. One, this is the control. These mice receive wild-type macrophages. This group also received wild-type macrophages, but were treated with the agonist. In these 2 groups, they received macrophage deficient of the A2A adenosine receptor and were treated or not treated with the agonist. So treatment with the agonist reduced the kidney injury as expected. However, the absence of the A2A adenosine receptor in macrophages, even if we treat or not treat these mice, increase the kidney injury. Mice also has increased the position of collagen 1, collagen 3, and collagen 4. So a partial conclusion is the A2A adenoreceptor play a very critical role in regulating inflammatory response in this model of glomerulonephritis, and that endogenous macrophage A2A adenosine receptors are essential to protect from progressive kidney injury. However, we are still some kidney damage in this model because I told you before there are other factors that contribute to the initiation and the progression of the kidney injury. So we were interested in the A2B adenosine receptor. This receptor is mainly expressed in the vasculature. This group used A2B adenosine receptor knockout reporter gene mouse. They replace the exon 1 of the A2B adenosine receptor with the reported construct of the beta-gal gene. So if we stain for beta-gal, we can see the expression of A2B adenosine receptor, and we can see it's mainly in the vasculature, in the aortic arch, the femoral artery, and the mesenteric artery. So we decided to use these mice, and first we investigated where is this receptor in the normal kidney. Interestingly, this receptor is expressed in the vascular pore of the glomeruli, in the afferent and efferent arterioles. And this is very important because in this model and in other models of glomerulonephritis, increased resistance of this arteriole is responsible to the increase in the glomerular capillary hypertension. And so this is one of the reasons that can contribute to the progression of a kidney injury. Exciting is that some group isolate these arterioles, they perfuse it and use an A2B adenosine receptor agonist, and they were able to vasodilate these arteries. So we think that if A2B can vasodilate and reduce the resistance, we are going to reduce the glomerular capillary hypertension. So we decided to use these mice, and we use the same model of anti-GBM glomerulonephritis. And we can see that in the wild-type mice, we stain for PAS and beta-gal. Beta-gal is not expressed in wild-type mice, but it's highly increased during glomerulonephritis, not only in the afferent and efferent arterioles, but also in the glomerular capillaries. Interestingly, the absence of the receptor increases the glomerular and the tubulointerstitial damage. Interestingly, if there is less damage in the kidney, is less expression of the receptor. If there is more damage in the kidney, there is more expression of the receptor, indicating that the increased expression of the receptor is a contra-regulatory response to the kidney damage. These mice also, we found that there was increase of several chemokines, including CCL2 and CCL1, and this was associated with increase in the macrophage infiltration. Because we found more kidney injury, we also found increase in the serum creatinine and the microalbuminuria compared with the controls. So the question was, how is induced this receptor in glomerulonephritis? Well, previously, was described that hypoxia-induced factor 1 alpha is a transcriptional regulator of A2B adenosine receptor. So we use this ODD look bioluminescent report in mice in which after injecting luciferin in hypoxia condition, we can detect the expression of Hy1 alpha. So we use these mice and we detect the expression of Hy1 alpha at different time points. So this is the cold bar, and the red is the maximum expression. Compared with the control, at day 3, there is increased expression of Hy1 alpha, a little bit more higher expression at day 5. Double expression compared with day 3 of the Hy1 alpha at day 8, compared with the controls. And day 15, still we have expression of Hy1 alpha. So there is a very nice correlation between the expression of Hy1 alpha and the expression of this receptor. For both Hy1 alpha and A2B adenosine receptor, the maximum expression was at day 8. Because this receptor is expressed mainly in the vasculature, we next investigated the effect of the deletion of the receptor in endothelial cells. So we used this model of glomerulonephritis, and we found that the absence of the endothelial A2B adenosine receptor increased the susceptibility for this disease. The glomerular and the tubulointerstitial damage was higher in the absence of this receptor, and also were higher in the levels of the creatinine and the microalbuminuria. In these mice, we also found increase the expression of several chemokines, with increase in the macrophage infiltration compared with the controls. To further corroborate the protective effect of this receptor, we back to our model in rats, and in this case, we use an agonist. So we can see that the activation of the receptor reduces the glomerular injury, with reduction of the glomerular hypercellularity, the necrotizing lesion. Interestingly, was no difference in the crescenting glomeruli, but this is expected because crescent formation depends on macrophages, podocytes, myofibroblasts, but no endothelial cells. Also, the activation of the receptor was able to reduce the levels of the serum creatinine and the proteinuria in these rats. So, in conclusion of these studies is that A2B adenosine receptor play a critical role in kidney protection, that endothelial A2B adenosine receptor contribute to kidney protection in this model of glomerulonephritis. So, we are proposing the next studies. We think that even we have indirect evidence that the induction of the receptor is through HIF1 alpha. I think we need to use the conditional HIF1 alpha deficient mice to further corroborate that HIF1 alpha regulates the expression of the receptor. Because the receptor is expressed mainly in the afferent and efferent arterioles and in the capillary glomeruli. We are going to investigate if the protection is because prevent vascular injury and because the vasodilation of these afferent and efferent arterioles can reduce the glomerular capillary hypertension. In addition, we think that we can have enhanced protection by activation of both the A2 adenosine receptor that target macrophages and A2B adenosine receptor that can protect from vascular and hemodynamic injury. So if we use those both receptors, we may break this vicious cycle. We prevent the hemodynamic changes and prevent the damage on other cells. If we use A2A adenosine receptor, we prevent inflammation, and this also is going to protect glomerular cells, and we can prevent chronic inflammation and progression of the kidney injury. Finally, I would like to acknowledge for the help of these people that were possible these studies. Thank you very much.